Hi, everyone. This is Alex Mitchell. I'm the Chief Product Officer of a company called ICX Media. And I'm excited today to talk about the different types of product managers and how you can assemble these different types of product managers into really what's the perfect product team, a winning team. So that's going to be the topic for today. I'm excited to jump in with you and take you through the different types of product managers. So first off, just a little bit on ICX Media. So I work for this company that helps bring data to big media companies, brands, and agencies so they can basically make better decisions. So that could be what programs to include in their streaming service. That could be what content to produce themselves. It could be even how much to pay for that content. We're trying to bring data to a place where really only creativity has kind of ruled, which is an okay thing, but we're trying to bring data to make decisions even better for those companies. So just a little bit on ICX Media before we jump in. So as I've spoken at conferences, as I've written a lot of articles on Medium, one of the questions I get almost every time is, how do I become a product manager? I've kind of put great in here because I think that should be the aspiration. How do I become a great product manager? But it's a question I get time and time again. Here's maybe just a few ways I get it, in different forms. How much is a product manager involved in shaping business strategy? What qualifications do you need? Do you need an MBA? I know I've seen this one posted a few times recently. What skill sets do you think are mandatory for PMs in technology? Should they know programming languages? Be hands-on programmers? Potentially, if you want to be a technical product manager, that could be the case, but that's one way to ask that question. I'm a computer engineer with a PMP certificate who is struggling to land a job. What strategy would you recommend for someone like me? I'm looking to move away from a technical background. So this person was a quality analyst for a bunch of years into product management. How should I model my resume and overall experiences? And then one last one. What advice do you have for people with no technical background that want to get into this field? So a lot of different ways to kind of ask this same question at the end of the day. And so let's play a little case study here. So imagine you are hiring a product manager. So your first person has spent, 1 year as the product manager at a big tech company, 3 years as a developer before that, and they actually have a side hustle generating about $3,000 in revenue. Pretty cool. Second person, this person's been a product lead at a startup for a couple years. They did 4 years in data science, and they actually speak at data science conferences. And then this last one, 3 years as a PM at a scaling startup, 3 years in marketing before that, and they write a blog on marketing for tech companies. So A, B, or C, who would you choose to hire as your next product manager? So really, going back here, there actually is no answer. It really depends on what you need at your company. So we'll get into this. We'll talk about the different types of product managers. But actually, the most important part of choosing the product manager A, B, or C here is kind of the existing composition of your product team and what your goals are as a company. Do you need that, technical product manager on the left? Do you need that person who can understand the data at a very deep level in the middle? Or do you need someone who can really help scale your company? Are you ready to, start marketing a ton more, getting your products out there? You might want to see that. So really the answer depends on who you have on your team and what your goals are. So again, how do I become a great product manager? Not a simple answer, but we're going to work through it together today, and you'll definitely know a ton more about how to be a great product manager by the time we wrap this up. So I'm going to go through the 5 different personas that I've seen of product managers. We'll touch on the shared traits that all great product managers have. So there's some different things with product managers, but there are some similarities for sure. And then how to build that right product team. So the 5 different personas that I've seen out there at the jobs I've worked at, the people I've talked with in the industry, people at conferences. First, you have your technical product manager. We'll get into that one a little bit more. Then the analytic product manager, the marketing product manager, the get shit done product manager, one of my favorites, and then the visionary product manager. So why would you have all these different types of product managers? Why does that make sense? It's because you have such different types of companies. So I've just put three companies that I've worked for recently here up on the screen just to kind of highlight that example. So you have Vistaprint Digital. The Vistaprint business is about selling physical goods. The digital business, of course, digital goods in small dollar purchases at scale. So the customer persona is a small business owner buying these digital products, typically not very tech savvy. And then at Upside, we were selling business travel and business travel services to create this idea of a better business trip. So obviously very different technology there, different persona, even between those two companies. And then at ICX Media, data inspired storytelling. I mentioned ICX before and how we leverage data to help improve those decisions that these media companies, these brands, these agencies make. But these are all three different industries. They're three different life stages of companies, ranging from young, small to more established public companies. So really, you need different skill sets of product managers and different mixes of that product team in order to achieve the goals of each of these businesses. So just companies and industries are very, very different. That's at the root of why there are so many different types of product managers. So let's jump right in. So that first one, technical product manager, they were almost always a developer before they jumped into product. And they weren't just a developer on your team, they were one of the best. They really kind of could understand that balance as a product manager does of what you could do quickly, what needed more time invested, kind of that product manager's instinct. So they had that even when they were working in a technical role, maybe a technical lead role. That's kind of where they came from usually. So they'll kind of talk about things like tech debt and trade-offs. You'll hear them kind of just use this language very comfortably, even if they're not a product manager yet. They can kind of talk about how throwing away code or building something that they know that they will kind of move on from, and even just the trade-offs of tech debt. So those are the type of things they'll kind of be talking about and saying, that you'll hear that will kind of identify them as a technical product manager. You typically find them at just more technical companies. So Google is really well known for hiring a ton of technical product managers. That's a big part of their interview process, but also things like Amazon Web Services, Docker, Splunk, Microsoft. Should be no surprise that these are kind of the more technical product companies. So what's great about a technical product manager is they can understand that world of a developer really well. They know kind of the trade-offs of what is worth doing quickly, what's worth spending more time on, technical compromises. That's great. They really understand that world. And then they already might have relationships, right? Really strong relationships with your technical team. So they might have empathy for them. That's great. That just makes it even easier, for them to kind of build what they want to build with their technical teams, which is great. On the negative side, so typically these product managers have a little bit lower level of what I'm calling business intelligence. So whether that's marketing, whether that's kind of other kind of pricing, things like that, they might not just have that skill as strongly as some other product managers. And then sometimes in these technical conversations, they have to be very careful that they don't step too far out of the product role and question technical decisions. They're very intelligent in that area, obviously, given where they came from, but you have to make sure not to cross that line and kind of respect engineering's decision rights and product's decision rights. So that's just one of the things I've seen cause challenges. The analytic product manager or the data science product manager. So somewhat similar to the technical product manager, but they were probably an analyst or a data scientist, maybe a junior data scientist before they jumped over to product. And again, they weren't just kind of running queries. They weren't just doing basic data analysis. They were really out there in front of your leaders, kind of presenting strong cases, recommendations, an expert in many ways. And they kind of understood their ability to influence business decisions. So they kind of were starting to play that product role, even though they might have been an analyst, might have been a junior data scientist. So you might hear them say things, like describing certain data and then kind of tying it into product concepts. So things about churn rates, purchase rates, AOV. They're kind of thinking of the business and they're thinking bigger than just the data that they're looking at. So those are the type of things you'll kind of hear them say and see them act. Unsurprisingly, you find these people at more data-driven companies. So Palantir or Looker, a data visualization company, or ICX Media. So we deal with a ton of data. So our product managers are all kind of at least partially in this kind of analytic product manager, this APM persona. What's great is they really understand how the product's functioning. They understand the data around it. They know what's working, what's not. They're often the most informed person at the company about what's working or what isn't because they've seen all of the data before. They've seen it. They're familiar with it. They track it. Those type of things. On the cons, they sometimes struggle because there just fundamentally isn't great data all the time for product decisions. You have to use intuition. You have to pay attention to the market. You have to, kind of look at patterns that you've seen before. You might not have perfect data. Also, this person is probably not going to be your most innovative product manager. They certainly could be, but they kind of have a more analytic brain. They're about optimization, often more than innovation. So it's rare that this person will kind of break out and create something completely new out there or try and kind of build something completely new. Marketing product manager. So this, very different than the maybe technical product manager. This MPM has a really strong understanding of both your customer and kind of the market. So they really know what the customer's goals are. They know who they are. They know why they're buying or why they aren't buying, and it's really obvious to them, which features of the product actually sell it. What things actually convince people that your product is great, and which ones don't matter that much. They also understand that it's not just about building a great product. It's about making sure the marketing highlights, what this product can do for someone, how it solves a problem for them, and how they can minimize maybe the weaknesses in a competitive landscape of the product. So they're really smart in these areas. They're incredibly talented in these areas, and then they just kind of have this innate voice of the customer in their head. So, they'll say things like this: the market is hungry for this feature. It's a major point of differentiation for our business from our competitors, would let us price our products significantly above ours and still grab market share. So you can see a bunch of like the keywords, buzzwords here that they're saying. Clearly, they're thinking about this from kind of a market fit perspective, differentiation. That is the marketing product manager. And you'll find them at companies that are a little bit more in the marketing customer communication space. So Intercom, HubSpot, I even put a couple other ones, Allbirds and Toast, where you're really talking about the brand. You're talking about what it can do for you, less so in some cases the underlying technology, that type of thing. So, or the underlying data. It's much more about how this solves a problem for you. Which every product should do, but you can see these companies have leaned into it more. They write a lot about it. It's a very core part of their business. So this is where you tend to find these MPMs. What's great about them is they're really good during kind of the trade-offs. When you're deciding certain features or planning your roadmap, they have that voice of the customer. They have that voice of the market. So they can be really helpful at letting you know what's valuable and what's not valuable. They're also really helpful as you get to the end of a product cycle and you're thinking about how to price your products, how to position it, how to focus on certain features or not, what the marketing plan should look like. They're great to have at that point in time too. The cons is usually they're not the most technical product manager. In fact, they're probably the least of any of the ones that we're talking about. And for that reason, they're sometimes viewed with skepticism by some developers. So before, I mentioned that marketing and development sometimes clash a bit. So this marketing product manager who doesn't maybe have those deep technical skills, they have to make sure that they kind of build their relationships early on with developers, or they might view them with that skepticism. The get shit done product manager. So one of my favorite ones. This is much more rare than the technical product manager, the analytic product manager, the marketing product manager. Kind of each of those had a clear path, right? They either were a developer before, they were an analyst or a data scientist, they were on the marketing team. This get shit done PM, it's kind of a innate part of people's personality. It's not something that you necessarily did as a role before. Maybe growth could be the exception if you're on a growth team before, but it's more likely this is just a part of this person's personality. So they're very hard charging. They're intensely focused on delivery almost at all costs. And because of that, they sometimes may burn bridges. They may make even some enemies and work their team up, too hard. But at the end of the day, they will achieve their goals. That is kind of their number one priority is delivery, is achieving those goals. That is what they are driven by. And so they might say things like, why not now? Why can't we do this quicker? Why can't we do this in a day instead of a week? They're always pushing for things to happen faster. And again, it's a fine line between, that being a comfortable and healthy thing and that being, too much and burning people out. So you find them at, the scooter companies more recently kind of, employed this strategy. You may set, a company like Away, the luggage company, definitely had this culture for a bit, and maybe early on at Uber and Facebook, right? It was kind of completely this culture. So that intense focus is a pro, right? They don't miss their delivery dates. They're excited by challenges and obstacles in front of them. And then they sometimes can just make up for others if they aren't moving quick enough. So that one might be a pro and a con, but you can kind of see, a little bit more on this get shit done product manager. You're kind of starting to understand them a bit more. On the cons, sometimes they're so focused they just lose sight of what's happening around them, and they miss some opportunities because they're just so focused on their one goal or their two goals, and also that insane focus and that push and that grinding can definitely rub developers the wrong way. I have seen developers who actually have these personality traits. So sometimes they work really well with this get it done product manager, but most don't. Most are uncomfortable with this way of working, at least for a prolonged period of time. So those are just a couple of the cons to be aware of with this persona. And then the last one here of the 5 that we've gone through is the visionary product manager. So this is actually the rarest of product managers. Again, this doesn't have a direct path from another job to this type of product manager. But what's cool about them is they position themselves kind of above the tactical. So they think more strategic. They're not, always thinking about the actual tickets. They're thinking about where are we going, over the next couple sprints, over the next couple months, even the next couple years. Like the marketing product manager, they really understand the industry. They understand their company, how they fit into the space, and what they actually offer. And again, it's not, sometimes they're not even thinking quarters, they're thinking years of time. And so, they'll say things like, what are the trends happening right now? How do you think the competitive landscape will change over the next 3 years? Like, how do we become the leader in a certain feature, a certain offering to the market? They're thinking big almost all the time. And usually these are founders of startups. That's where I've seen them the most. It's a founder, their company maybe gets acquired. They become a product lead for that acquiring company, and they have this visionary persona. So that's where I've seen them come from a lot. And that's, the ones that I've worked with have been founders before. So it's great that they just have this long-term horizon. They're great to have on the team in that way because they look beyond just that day to day. They're also really good at pitching your product because they're not just talking about the features it has now. They're talking about how it extends into the future and dominates an industry, and they're able to kind of connect tactical decisions towards this greater vision of the business of the product. So visionary product manager, great for those things. On the downside, they definitely can overlook the specifics. So they might not be as focused or as good at kind of the operational side of product management. So simple things like tickets, planning, retros don't excite them. That's not something that they really think about that much. They really would prefer probably other people do those as they inspire instead. They can deep dive into technical or product issues, but they just don't do it as often as other product managers. That's not where they're most comfortable. And so we've gone through a lot of different personas and a lot of different differences between those PM personas, but there are major similarities between many different types of PMs. So one is an extreme generalist. So what I mean by this is they're able to move quickly between many different areas and become good enough for a period of time, an expert enough for a period of time to help the company, help their team move forward. So they're able to kind of jump around a lot of different technical, non-technical areas and help the team. They're really a prioritization machine. So regardless of what type of PM you are, if you want to be successful, you have to be really, really good at, what do we say no to? How do we prioritize things? And it's a constant battle. It's not something that ends after sprint planning or quarterly roadmap. It is a constant part of the role. So saying no a lot. So that's part of prioritization. You're probably going to say no 9 times for every yes you say, because you want to make sure you're focused on the right opportunities out there. And the no might not be a no. It might be, we're going to put that in the backlog. We're going to evaluate that. We'll estimate it. We'll spike on it. Those types of things that can help you make sure it is, not the best opportunity for you, instead of just outright saying no. Successful PMs also have a passion for the product. They're excited about it on the weekends. They're excited about it when they go to sleep. They're always thinking about new features. So someone who is a good PM has a passion for their product, what it can be in the future, even what it is now, sharing it with customers wherever they are. They have that passion. Successful product manager also has this adaptive focus. And so what I mean by this is they can go from thinking about the day to day to thinking about, sprint to sprint, month to month. And in the case of that visionary product manager, even beyond that, because as a PM, you're often shifting between these roles. You might be in a meeting with your leadership and you're kind of talking longer term. Meeting with your developers, you're talking about specific tickets that we're working on today. You need to be able to move between those different timeframes very, very quickly. Then another one is Evangelist. So similar to being excited about the product and having a passion for it, you want to share it with others. So similar to the way I talked about ICX Media earlier, you should be promoting your product out there, whether that's at meetups, whether that's with other product managers, whether it's at conferences. Be an evangelist of your product. Be excited about it. Share it with others. Get them excited about it. That's usually what I see as a trait in successful product managers. Product managers, if they're going to be that extreme generalist, they really have to keep learning. They have to keep learning new technologies, new things happening out there in the market, learn from other companies. They really can never stop learning. You've never kind of maxed out as a product manager in terms of what you know. Technologies are always changing. Companies are always changing. You need to keep changing and kind of getting better all the time. So just a quick recap. So here are the 7 ones. So extreme generalist, prioritizing, saying no a lot, maybe in a few different ways, passion for the product, that adaptive focus, being an evangelist, and never stopping learning. So if you can do these 7 things, you will definitely be a successful PM. To be honest, I still struggle with some of these, every day. It's a work in progress, I think, even for the most successful PMs I've seen. So let's end by talking about how the ways that you can bring together different types of product managers to build that great team. So again, I'm putting up here 3 of the companies I've worked for just as an example. So Vistaprint Digital, Upside, and ICX Media. So at Vistaprint, again, the customer was people with lower technical skills, small business owners, not a lot of time, and the bigger business was kind of selling marketing materials to those small businesses. So you can see here, we have 3 people on the team, or had 3 product managers on the team who had that marketing product manager persona. 1 technical, 1 analytic, and 1 visionary. That visionary was through an acquisition that Vistaprint had made. So that kind of shows where those visionary product managers typically come from. I was more the analytic product manager on this team, and then we had a technical product manager who was a developer at Vistaprint Digital before he moved over to product. At Upside, we were very early on in our life cycle, and so you can see we over-indexed on the get shit done persona. The things were changing all the time. We had lots of important deadlines for both our investors and just kind of market releases. So that was an incredibly important persona for us to have. We also had a visionary product manager. So the president of the company was a former founder, multi-time founder, who was the head of product. And so he kind of gave us that longer term vision, thought bigger, those types of things. And then you can see we kind of rounded out the team with a couple analytic product managers, and one kind of half technical product manager who wasn't a developer recently, but had been earlier in his career. So having that perspective still helped kind of balance out the team. And at ICX, you heard a little bit of the background from me before, but data is a lot of what we do. So half of our product managers have an analytics background, or a data science background. We have kind of one get shit done personality who kind of helps us keep moving things along quickly, and then one visionary product manager. So kind of important again for this team, given that it's a early small startup, kind of having that longer term view to kind of balance things out. So you can see here, 3 different companies, 3 different team organizations, but all oriented around the goals that those companies are trying to achieve, the life cycle that they're in, and the customers they serve. How do I become a great product manager? So coming back to that question that I've heard so many times that many of you likely have, and here's your answer. So own the basics. So those basics, those kind of 7 things of a successful product manager, make sure you work on each of them every day, right? Look at that list, print it out, become an expert as much as you can at those things. Lean into your strengths. So not all product managers are created equal. As you saw, we went through 5 very different types of product managers. So which one do you fit in? Think about that a little bit and then lean into those strengths. So be aware of the downsides that I've highlighted, but don't be afraid to lean into those strengths, and find the right kind of team to join. So joining or building the right team, as you've seen, varies dramatically by company. So once you've owned the basics, once you've figured out your persona and leaned into your strengths, look for a company that's a fit for those strengths, that's looking for that type of product manager. Or if you're on a startup, make sure you build that right team that supports your customers, supports your company, supports your vision, and you will be successful. You will achieve becoming a great product manager. So I write a lot about product management concepts. You can find me in a few places. You can Google me. If you put Alex Mitchell, I'm this one down here. I am not this guy over here. One day I'll be number 1, but for now, you can find me a little bit down the page. This is not me also. Unfortunately, his name's not even Alex Mitchell. It's Gary, which is really unfortunate. But honestly, more serious note, I write a ton about product. Find me on Medium, where you'll see I pretty much post a weekly blog post on something related to product. I've also written a couple of books. Building Digital Products was my first one, really focused on the day-to-day of product management, including a lot of the things we've talked about today. And then Disrupting Yourself is my most recent book, which is really a guide to how to succeed in what I'm calling the new economy, a world where jobs change much more frequently. You need to learn constantly. Again, some of the same things we talked about today, I've brought into a book called Disrupting Yourself. So it's been really great talking with everyone today. You can find these slides here at bit.ly/greatpms. And I'm definitely open to feedback at the link here too. But thank you for letting me share a lot about kind of the different personas of great product managers, building a winning product team. And please reach out if you have any questions, and look forward to seeing you all in the world of product in the future. Thank you.